with every team now having played at least the first game of the series in the NBA playoffs, and a lot of teams playing their second game today, I figured why not talk about the first game? Now, I don't intend to talk about every single game of every single series every single time, but I might talk about game one of each series because I think that can tell you a lot about how the rest of the series may go and just show how much fight a team has that we may have expected not to do very well. So that's exactly what I kind of want to talk about today. We're going to go through game one of every single series of the NBA playoffs so far. Everyone has now played one game. And yeah, that's it. My name is John. This is the Sports Advocate. Thank you for tuning in. I'm sure you're going to like this content. If you clicked on it, then I appreciate it a lot. You might as well subscribe if you do like this video. Give me a like, give me a dislike, give me some criticism down below. And why not give me a comment on what series you think will be the biggest upset. Now, whether that's a 1 and an 8 seed or just a 4 and a 5 seed, I'm not quite sure. But who do you think will be the biggest upset? Go ahead and give me that prediction down below since we're only just starting the series. But we're going to go on my phone real quick and we're going to go through each game in order that the game was played because I think that's probably the easiest way to do it, smartest way to do it. I might talk a little bit of stats. I might talk a little bit of my thoughts. I watched most games, but obviously I couldn't watch every single one of them. But we're just going to get into this. First things first, Jazz Mavericks. Jazz won 99-93. Mavericks obviously did not have Luka, but they played very well without him. They really did very good against the Jazz, both offensively and defensively. I mean, holding another team below 100 in this league is very good, and especially against Jazz, who honestly have been pretty potent on offense throughout most of the year. But I think the big reason they weren't so well is because Donovan Mitchell, I think he shot about 36% on the game, which is not at all characteristic of him in the playoffs. He normally plays extremely well when he is in the playoffs. And for that reason, I don't expect him to continue the shooting. I would assume game one, which I think, or game two, which I think is tonight, he's going to shoot very well. So don't be too surprised if Donovan Mitchell goes on a scoring frenzy here soon. But like I said in my original prediction, which you can go ahead and check out, that's going to be up. I might link that as my video at the end of the video in the end cards. But it's all going to come down, this series is all going to come down to when Luka returns. Whether Luka returns tonight or game 3 or whatever, it's going to be a big difference. I think the sooner Luka returns, the sooner the Mavericks have a shot at finding a way to win because they were so close already. With Luka added, his scoring potential is going to be a huge boost to this team. But again, Donovan Mitchell is going to find a way to score and turn around. So this series is going to be very, very good. I think I predicted like a game 7 and it could go either way, but I did choose the Jazz because I didn't know when Luka would return, and I still kind of stand by that. If Luka returns sooner, then I think it's gonna come down to game 7, and it can go really either way. But next up, I think the biggest upset was the next game. Yeah, Timberwolves against the Grizzlies. The Timberwolves won 130-117. Boy, was this a surprise. I did expect Timberwolves to steal a game or two here. I do enjoy the roster that Timberwolves have brought together, but they found a way to win this game, even with some poor shooting from D'Angelo Russell, who for most of the regular season was probably their number 2 option. By this time, I'd say he's probably the number 3 behind Anthony Edwards. But I think he shot like 18%, 20% from the field, Russell did, and they still found a way to win by double digits. That's crazy. And it was led by Anthony Edwards had 36, and I think Cat had 29. Russell led with assists, team lead assists. I think he had 9. But I don't know, that's weird. The Grizzlies have found a way to win with or without Ja for most of the year, and then the second the playoffs start, they go against this Timberwolves team who just celebrated like they won the finals in the play-in, and they lose by double digits. I don't expect that to. I don't expect Timberwolves to win this whole series, but it was quite surprising. I think Timberwolves are capable of it. I just don't anticipate them to do so. Russell D'Angelo Russell needs to figure out how to get a shot back. I don't know if it was just a one-game slump or what it was, but 20%, not good at all. John Morant played quite well. Brooks played quite well. I think Brooks had like 24. Ja, I think, had 30-something. So Grizzlies did quite well. They just couldn't find a way to hold it down. And whether I didn't get a chance to watch most of this game, but whether that was defensive efforts or just the Timberwolves hitting more open shots or what, I'm not quite sure. I watched the highlights, but that's not going to tell you the full story. But I expect the Grizzlies still to win it, but maybe a little bit closer per game than I expected. But I don't think this is going to be a 7-game series. Nice voice crack there. Next up, we have the Raptors 76ers game, 131-111. 76ers won it. Now this game was, now I think everyone expected a Joel Embiid to take this team. And James Harden always kind of struggles in playoffs. But the person who took lead, who is likely going to be in my thumbnail, is Tyrese Maxey. He had like 30-some points, 36. I'll pull it up right here. Tyrese, 38 points on 67% shooting. Joel Embiid shot 33% with 19 points. Tobias Harris had 26 points on 64% shooting. Joel Embiid on this team scored the 4th most points. The 4th, Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, James Harden, Joel Embiid. This game was wild. Like, if I told you right now, like if I would have told you 2 days ago, hey, Joel Embiid is going to only have 19 points in this game against the Raptors, I think we're all probably assuming that they lose. Or if I told you that Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris are going to be the top scorers in game 1, I think you're assuming that the Raptors win this. But 76ers won by 20 points, with Joel Embiid only scoring 19 and Harden scoring 22. Like, that's crazy. And if you look at Toronto, it's not terrible. They all shot quite well. They only had two players below 50% shooting. Only 2. Gary Trent Jr. and Achuya. So they... the fact that this was a 20-point difference game with Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris as the team leads for 76ers, and with only 2 players shooting below 50% on the Raptors, and it was a 20-point loss, that's crazy to me. And I think I chose the Raptors to win this series, but I think I'm completely wrong, especially with how well the Tobias Harris and Tyrese Maxey played. And I knew they were good. Tobias Harris is always going crazy on the Bulls. Tyrese Maxey started playing very good after the Harden trade, but if they can do that, and Joel Embiid can start hitting the shots, and James Harden can play just decent amount, like 20 points per game, this 76ers team can be crazy deadly. So next up, the last game of the first day of the NBA playoffs is the Warriors against the Nuggets. And I did have a Nuggets upset on the series. Obviously, this is still game 1. But it was 123 Warriors, 107 Nuggets. So again, not a very close game. And Nikola Jokic did have 25, 10, and 6 with 3 steals and a block. And he shot 48%. He was a team leader, and that's kind of what we all expected. He had some help from Barton with 24, but we all knew that this was going to be what the Joker could do for the Nuggets. That would be how they win. How did the Joker play? But Golden State had only one player over 20 points. No, it's not Steph. No, it's not Clay. No, it's not Wiggins. It was Jordan Poole with 30 points on 70% shooting. And let me remind you, Steph Curry was, by all accounts, the 6th man in this game. That is crazy. Like, the amount of random players that were just, like, coming out of nowhere and scoring, and just Tyrese Maxey, Jordan Poole, Al Horford, who we'll talk about here in a second. Chris Paul, not a huge surprise for the Suns, but I think most people would have predicted it to be Devin Booker. Like, Anthony Edwards over Cat. Like, there's a lot of players that just did really good in their playoff. And most of these players, I think, is the first time in the playoffs. Poole, this is his first time. Anthony Edwards, this is his first time. Clearly not Horford's first time. Is it Maxey's? Was Maxey on? No, I think this is Maxey's second. But this is his first time starting. And that's just crazy. Golden State won. And let it be known that every single starter shot above 45%, and Clay was the only one to shoot below 50% as a starter. Yeah, it was a very good game, and I don't know. Again, I might be very wrong on this. I think the Warriors might come out on top, and I did vote against them, and I'm not a Warriors hater. Like, genuinely, I'm not. I'm a Nikola Jokic big fan of him. And that's kind of why I thought the Nuggets would find a way to win. Even without Jamal Murray, even without Porter, I thought they could find a way to win. But the Warriors clearly proved me wrong, at least in Game 1. So, first game of Day 2 is one that we all predicted. 115-91 win for the Heat over the Hawks. Jimmy Butler had like 21. But I think I don't even need to look at my phone. The biggest surprise here, we know the Heat are a huge defensive team. We know the Hawks aren't so much. It was still a pretty big defense or point gap, but the defense played on Trae Young. I want to pull up his percentage. Trae Young had 8 points in the game. 8 points. The same person who just went crazy in the play-in and was responsible for 50 points on his team, assists or scoring in the just second half. Had 8 points in the entire game. Trae Young, 8 points in the entire game, shooting 1 for 12, 8.3%. 0 for 7 for 3-point. And he had 6 of his points from the free throw line. Like, crazy. And from the Heat side, we know they're a huge defensive team, but let's just go over the points real quick. 21 for Butler, 10 for Lowry, 6 for Bam, 16 for Tucker, and then 27 for Duncan Robinson, who just always finds a way to just go crazy. I mean, he was 8 for 9 from three-pointers. He is unconscious from three in the playoffs, it seems like. But literally, Duncan Robinson off the bench was the highest scorer for the Heat. He was the highest scorer in the game. 27 was the highest scorer in the game, with the next closest being 21 for Jimmy Butler. And not a single person scored above 20 for the Hawks. The closest was Gallinari with 17. I knew the Heat were a great defensive team, but wow, did they show it. I mean, wow. Bam did not play very good. Kyle Lowry, offensively speaking, not very good. Jimmy played pretty good, and Duncan Robinson was playing out his mind from the three-point line. But nonetheless, the defense for the Heat was crazy, and I think I predicted Heat in 5 or something, and I definitely stand by that. Next up, the funnest game to watch, maybe, outside of the Bulls, because I'm a Bulls fan, the Boston Celtics versus the Brooklyn Nets. And not only was it super fun because of the whole Kyrie dynamic with being in Boston and all the fan hate and him doing the middle finger behind his back and the conversation afterwards and the press conference and all that stuff, but 115-114 Boston win. Super close game. The game-winning shot was just beautiful ball movement. It get past I think it got passed from Jaylen Brown to Marcus Smart on the three-point line. Marcus Smart pump faked, made KD and somebody else jump way over him, drives in, throws it over to Tatum. Tatum gets it, spins around Kyrie, layup with like 0.4 seconds, game-winning layup. That was beautiful teamwork, beautiful passing, and just wow. Let's look at the box score real quick. Tatum had 31. Al Horford had 20 points and 15 rebounds. And that's huge because Daniel Tice was the starter, but he got in big foul trouble early on. And the reason why he was in there was because the Time Lord is injured and likely out for the whole series of the first round. And Al Horford comes out with 20 and 15. And Daniel Tice, who was the starter, went 4 and 6. He got in really bad foul trouble early on. Al Horford shot 61%. Tatum shot 50%. And yeah, Jaylen Brown had 23 also. The team offensively looked really good, and that's kind of what we expected. We expected this to be primarily an offensive game. We know how great Boston is at defense, but when you have KD and Kyrie, I should bring that up. When you have KD and Kyrie, they're going to find a way to score, and that's exactly what Kyrie did. Kyrie had 39 points against his former team in the Boston Celtics Stadium. 39 points. KD had 23 I think he had 3 more shots. Kyrie shot 60% on 20 shots. Kevin Durant shot 37% on 24 shots. So Kyrie almost doubled the amount of points as Kevin Durant on less shots total. It's wild. I expect Kyrie to do extremely well in this series. He's going to have a vendetta against the Boston Celtics after all the crazy hate he's getting. His press conference was a beautiful response, if you ask me. This is going to be a great series, but it's all going to come down to the Boston Celtics defense because the Nets have no defense. And if Boston can limit I shouldn't say the Nets have no defense. They don't have a great defense. If Boston can limit the amount of shots that the Nets are putting in, it's going to be pretty easy to find a way to just outscore them because their defense ain't great. I mean, Kevin Durant, decent defender. Kyrie, decent defender. But when you have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, if Al Horford's playing like that, you're going to find a way to score over these guys. And great game. The fact that it was a game-winning layup it was a beautiful play. 115-114 Boston. And I do expect Boston to still win this. I don't expect an upset there. Next up, you know what? We're going to skip over this. I'm going to talk about the Bulls game. I have a lot of opinions on the Bulls game. I obviously watched every single second of that. The last game of the day was what I assume the series will be a sweep. The Suns versus the Pelicans, 110-99. Like I said, Chris Paul was the team lead for the Suns on scoring. I think he had 30. Yep, Chris Paul had 30, Booker had 25, Ayton had 21. Exactly what you expected is the big three, if you call it a big three, I do. Their big three was going to be playing very well. Their defense is very good. Chris Paul had, where's the steals? Chris Paul had 3 steals. Ayton had 4 blocks. The defense is just super, super good for the Suns. And New Orleans just doesn't have enough competition to really go out there and win the series, let alone, I don't even know if they'll win a game. CJ McCollum CJ had 25, Ingram had 18, Valanciunas had 18, and then that's about it. Lance had 14, but shooting splits, only 2 people had above 50 with Larry Nance and Marshall, and they both shot less than 10 shots. So that's expected. But the Bulls game, I'm going to talk about stats and I'm going to go on a rant real quick. Chicago, DeRozan at 18, did not shoot good. Vooch had 24, did not shoot very good. Zach had 18, Caruso had 7, Kobe White had 12. For Milwaukee, 15 Drew Holiday, 11 Middleton, 27 Antetokounmpo, and 18 for Lopez. But let's talk real quick. This was a much more defensive-heavy game than anyone anticipated. We all know the Bucks were very good, and the Bulls were extremely good defensively at the beginning of the year, but the Bulls fell quite down on their defense. But both teams scoring under 95, under 100, is crazy. I didn't even think that the teams were going to make it to 90, if I'm being honest. And then there just happened to be at the end because all the fouls. But the shooting for both sides was terrible. I think Giannis was the only person above 50% who shot more than 8 shots or something like that. Giannis is going to find a way. I think it was 10 for 19. So Giannis is obviously going to make his shots because he's not shooting a lot of threes, and he's always just at least 4 of his shots are going to be dunks. So he's going to find a way to have a good shooting percentage. He just always will. But everyone else, I think in like the end of the third quarter or something, I heard the announcers be like, both teams are shooting below 30% as a team, and that is just poor. That is terrible. And DeRozan, who everyone jokes is defrozen, and I sure hope he's not as a Bulls fan, in the second half, I was literally watching my screen. Whenever DeRozan had the ball, I'm like, please pass it. And he'd shoot the shot, and you're like, it's not a bad shot, but you're not making these shots right now. You need, please pass it. If you get a wide open shot, shoot it, I understand. But he would hold the ball for 10 seconds and then get a little bit of space and shoot it, and he'd miss. And it's like, oh, please just pass it. Zach LaVine was extremely hot for a time there, and DeRozan just deflated him, and then Zach got in foul trouble, and that didn't help. Vucevic had a point where he was like on fire. I was literally screaming his name. I was like, Vuce! Just screaming. Everyone was so upset at me. But he had like, he had like 10 points, 8 points or something by himself on like an 8-0 run or something. 2 threes, a couple low post scores, all that stuff. And like I said, not everyone shot very bad this game. I think Vucevic was 9 for 25. Let it be known that his shooting always looks bad, whether it is bad or not, because how many times is Vuce shooting it, missing it, getting a rebound, shooting it, missing it, like 4 times, and then still ends up making it. So I feel like this should be a stat for all centers, but especially for Vucevic, because it just looks terrible for fans when you're looking at a box score at the end of the game. You're shooting 9 for 25. You're shooting well below 50%. But I'd like to know how many possessions has he shot. Not how many times has he shot. How many possessions has he shot? How many times is he shooting like 3 times in a possession, all because he's just getting the rebound and putting it back up? How many times is that happening? So how much different, like would he be 9 for, who knows, 18? Maybe there's 18 possessions that he has shot the ball, but him getting his own rebounding and putting it back up makes his percentage look worse, but he's still getting his own rebound. So yeah, DeRozan did not shoot very well. Zach was playing very well, but it looked like he was still kind of putting wear and tear on that knee. The defense, Patrick Williams looked really good. Caruso was going insane in that second half, pretty much intercepting, knocking loose every single ball. That foul that was apparently on Patrick Williams when Giannis went over the back, that was outrageous. You know what? If you make a mistake on the call, whatever. Billy should have challenged it. He's not big in challenging it. I'm not saying to foul out Giannis in that moment. With 2 minutes left in a super close game, when he has 5 fouls and he would foul out, I'm not saying that. But you cannot call that on Patrick Williams right there and then give Giannis shots because they were in the bonus. That is outrageous to me. I'm not saying foul Giannis out. I think that would be really stupid. When you have a game that close, you want all of the best players in there. You don't want the refs doing what they did. You don't want the refs changing the game, altering the game with simple whistle, a simple foul call, and if you foul out Giannis there, that changes the game dramatically. But the fact that you called on Patrick Williams, who's just boxing him out, and Giannis literally lays on top of him, you call on Patrick Williams and then give Giannis shooting, that's stupid to me. I'm not saying foul Giannis out, but that was really dumb to me. The defense from the Bucks, as expected, were really good. Even when DeMar was not doing good shooting-wise, he was turning the ball over quite a bit because he was just throwing the ball directly into like Drew Holiday's hand stuff. The amount of times, I'm really stuck on defense because it was a defense-heavy game. the amount of times that Giannis just had a different dude guarding him, like, all the time was just crazy. I was watching, it was like, oh, there's Patrick Williams. Oh, there's DeMar. Oh, there's Caruso for a little bit. And not even just, like, switching. Like, Giannis is coming down the court, and they're just like, hey, you get him this possession. It was just like, what? What is going on? And I know Giannis had 27 on 10 for 19. But, like, Giannis is going to get his. You just need to limit the rest of the team. And they did a pretty good job of that. But Giannis is going to get his. No one else had above, one person had above 15, and Drew Holiday had 15. But let's look at shooting. One person had above 50, and they only shot 3 times. Oh, no, 2 people had above 50%. And it was Giannis and Matthews. Matthews only shot 3 times. So Giannis, the only person with more than 10 shots to have above 50%. I want to look at shooting splits real quick for the Bulls because I'm a Bulls fan. And yes, this rant's going on very long. DeRozan, 24%. Vooch, 33%. Zach, 31%. Caruso, 42%. But just terrible. I want to look at turnovers. I guess I'll look at steals more than anything. Where do I see steals? Steals. Whoa, Milwaukee only had 4 steals. 4 steals, 6 blocks. But how many turnovers? Because that's like, I guess technically speaking, 11 turnovers for the Bulls, who most of the time are one of the best not turnover teams in the league, but it was bad. It was bad. I might do a whole video on, I'm going to do a whole video on the Bulls series when it ends. I need to stop ranting. I think I've done 10 minutes just on the Bulls series. But if you stuck through all this, thank you so much. You must really like my rant, so you might as well subscribe because I have videos like this daily. Give me a like, give me a dislike, and give me a comment down below what series you think will be the biggest upset. I've rambled on way too long, so as always, I hope I taught you something. I hope I made you laugh. Hope I made you smile. That's something that's really important to me. And as always, you guys all be safe out there.